All right, welcome to the CCE workshop presentation about EndNote. My name is Chris. I'm with the Alvin Sherman Library here at NSU. So this is the third in a series of workshops we have putting on. This is the last for this year. Next year, there's one more for accessing dissertation resources, just a brief overview of all of that. This recording will be actually uploaded to the CCE's YouTube page. This is just found on the College of Computer Engineering's for graduate students, their website. And the recording, I'll have links as well. So it should be pretty easy. You don't have to squint and try to make out what the URL is for the web pages I'm on. So in addition to things being included here on their YouTube site, on their YouTube channel, we do have our institutional repository, digital institutional repository called NSU Works. I haven't put the other workshop on here yet. I tried the video, it didn't go through very well for some reason, so still working on that. But it's on the YouTube channel. In fact, I guess I could have taken a look at the channel itself just for the sake of mentioning it but not showing it. So there's one I did in the past, but database searching. This is one earlier in the year, earlier in the semester about just all the resources available through the library. So it'll definitely be here. But NSU Works, if you're not familiar with it, like I said, is our institutional digital repository. You can search a wide variety of collections. The College of Computer Engineering, they have their own as well. You can look for dissertations, certain things that the faculty are working on or have published, different articles. You can even search the entire collection and search other repositories from different universities if they're a part of this system through a company called bPress. So just another resource out there. Just something to keep in mind. You might prove useful, especially if you're looking to do a literature review in the future, seeing what dissertations might have been published by those in your field or those just elsewhere at NSU. But today, like I said, we're going to be focusing on EndNote. And with that, I'm going to just go right to EndNote's webpage. Might as well be a good place to start. EndNote, if you're not familiar with it, which is probably why you're watching this video or you're here for the workshop. EndNote is a reference management software, as they like to say here on their website. A reference manager helps you format citations, stay organized, helps you just hopefully write your paper and with the whole research process that you'll be going through. And as a student, you have a license to EndNote. In fact, I'm not sure, you might be able to install it on more than one device. I'm still not entirely sure on that. Usually when you purchase EndNote for yourself, you can install it on 3 different devices. I'm not sure if that extends to us at NSU. EndNote 21 was just recently released. This website, their homepage here is just going over some of the more newer features that they've incorporated. And not much else probably to mention here. They have a brief product details page on what exactly that means when I say reference management software. We'll look into it. So I'm not going to go into, read all of this verbatim. We'll actually dive in and do some examples with the software itself. But there's a lot. There's a lot going on, and it can be kind of advanced, but it just depends on how you want to approach staying organized and using software of this nature. Let's see. You can think of it more like your own personal library, your own personal database for things, research materials that you're coming across. And it can sort of help you even write the articles, like I alluded to before. There's a tab up here for training and support. Maybe I'll come back to that towards the end just as a reminder. That's how I learned a lot for this software, both the older version and EndNote 21. They have a lot of great tutorials and just videos you can go through. Let's see. But speaking of reference management software, I might as well mention that there are others out there. Say you wind up not thinking, or you end up using EndNote, and something about it you don't seem to like very much for some reason. There are definitely others out there. 2 big ones probably that you might be familiar with, maybe Jabref and Zotero. Those are 2 open source free ones that are available. There may be some overlap between, say, this reference management software and EndNote in that they can be compatible. You can definitely export and import perhaps, but your license to EndNote that you have as a student, that will last you for your device. So once you graduate, you'll still have access to it for the life of that device, from what I've been told. So with that, let's actually go to the instructions to start downloading and getting it installed on your computer. I'm not gonna take time so you can install it on your own and kind of use it with me as I go through the workshop. This workshop's really meant not so much to have you walk away from it being an expert and being incredibly proficient with using EndNote, just a basic overview and touching on some of the features so you can get an idea if this is something that, oh, that seems really useful. I want to give that a try. If anything else, it might be another line on your resume. A lot of, depending on where you go in the research, once you graduate, what kind of companies you work for, they might actually like to see, oh, you have EndNote experience or you have some sort of reference management experience. So yeah, so again, just a breakdown, basically just screenshots from the actual website, what it is, how it works, and the Getting Started tab here on the library guide is where you'll actually start to see links to help take you to the NSU pages where you can download it either for a Mac computer or a Windows computer. And just make sure to follow the instructions as best you can. I'll try with the newer version, EndNote 21 coming out, there might be a few differences between what you see here on the guide. We try to keep it up to date. There's some things I've been on my to-do list for a while just to keep updated. Maybe put some better screenshots for the Mac download because it's still showing it in 20, for example. But let's see. So we go here, takes us right to the NSU page where we can download it. I just want to point out you do have the option to download EndNote 20. For some reason, if EndNote 21 is not working on your device, maybe you just prefer EndNote 20, or you already have EndNote 20 and you want to upgrade to EndNote 21. That whatever those options are there if you want it. I can't speak to though how long you'll have access to EndNote 20 when they'll stop supporting it. But a lot of instructions are here for just getting started. So if you don't if I don't go over anything in particular, maybe check in with this guide to just get a better understanding of how to start using it, more the basic elements. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in. I already have EndNote installed on my device, so we'll just get right into EndNote 21. This is the landing page. This is what you'll see pretty much, I think anytime you open up EndNote, you might be able to set the default to open up an existing library. We can go ahead and just create a new library, of course, just like any other type of software, create a new document, create a new spreadsheet. So we'll create a new library. I want to do this just to point out how EndNote structures things. So right now, we obviously change the name, and it's a EndNote library file.enl. So we can, that's fine. Just going to save it to my documents, or I can save it. I already have a folder here for EndNote library, and we'll just save that. That's fine. So here we are with the EndNote library, completely blank. We don't have anything going on, completely brand new. I think it's probably best though. I just wanted to show you what it looked like, at least from square one, but I'm going to actually open a sample library that will have a lot of things already pre-filled out that comes with EndNote. So you'll have access to this as well whenever you install it on your device. You can play around with the sample library and just see if the features are something that appeal to you and how you go about studying and just research in general. So I'm going to close it out and I'm just going to open it again. That might be the easier way because I want to show you one more thing when it comes to the libraries themselves. So say open an existing library. And so here's the library I just made, my EndNote library. This is one I made in the past. Something I want to point out is there are two different files that are associated when you're creating an EndNote library for the first time. So we have the .enl file that I mentioned before, and there's also a data folder that corresponds with the respective ENL file. And these two need to be kept together. They need to be, you can't just like, oh, I'm going to send this to my friend, I'm going to send this to my classmate or my professor or whatnot. I'm just going to copy one of these. They need to be together. And at the end, I'll demonstrate how to make a compressed file to more easily share and for backup purposes. But none of these are the ones I need for the sample library. So with that, EndNote, when you install it, puts it on your in the public documents folder, at least for Windows. So I'm not sure exactly where it will wind up for Macs, but since it's a program, it was installed on a 32-bit program, so x86, and then we can go to EndNote 21, and then examples. This will take us to, the public documents. So this is sort of a roundabout way to getting here. And then finally, we have our sample library, our compressed, our archived EndNote library that comes, like I said, default with the actual program. I was playing around with it earlier, so I was asking, oh, do you want to replace it? Sure, that's fine. Or I won't. Okay. In that case, let's just open the existing one that I had. That's fine. So here we are. A lot of stuff going on. This is, like I said, the sample library comes with different references already included, different groups already created, tags and whatnot. So I'll just walk you through what we're seeing here. As computer engineers, this may not seem as overwhelming to you as it is for others. You'll get a feel for it as you start to use the software, obviously. And there's only around 5 or so sections in different panels, as they call them, that you can play around with. And you can't close all of them, but you do have some options of just resizing, thankfully, in this version of EndNote, and closing things out. So the main section here in the middle of the page, in the middle of the software, is the master reference list, or just the reference list for depending on what group you have selected. So right now we have all references selected in the sample library. We can see all the references and scroll through them. By default, it comes with these columns already selected for us. We can choose others with this little gear icon, and we can even change this heading name if that seems to suit our needs better. So we have our own custom groups we can display if we want, and just other different column headings what we can display. So that's an easier way for us to sort. That's an easier way for us to visualize and see all the references. I'm not going to bother. Yeah, we'll just leave it at the default for now as a sample. As an example, let's see. So yeah, when you double click on a reference, you should get the pop-up on the right-hand side. So this is just the reference viewing panel to the top right corner here. You can resize things a little bit, but obviously we have the summary in the summary tab, title, date, author, the abstract itself. We can dive into the actual reference in the edit tab and start editing things that may not have come with our reference when we created it or downloaded it, things that may have been incorrect, misspellings, or just things that were out of date. Just depends on where you wind up getting things, how current any of the information might be. So if this article may have been retracted in the future, that might be something you might have to go in and manually edit yourself. And then we have a PDF tab, and I'll get more into this later on, but this is where EndNote stops becoming just a reference library, but also sort of a data library, because you can actually attach the files and attach a PDF for each respective reference that you have in your EndNote library. Let's see. So right under here, right underneath the reference summary, the reference panel, if we want to call it that, we have the citation panel here. Right now it's defaulting to APA 7th edition citation style. We can copy that right to our clipboard just with the copy button here. And we can, of course, select many different other citation styles. So depending on what you're working with, depending on what field or just what style you like to use, you can definitely choose right here in the drop down. And there's plenty more. So we can go into the citation style manager if it loads. And there's some more that are out of date for some reason, if you want to maybe APA 6th edition, but there's a lot here. And EndNote, to its credit, gives us a lot of information for the actual style itself. We can see a preview of it in use, and we can just select it and choose it to display as opposed to what we already have here in the panel. Okay, so on the left-hand side, this sidebar here, this is where our groups, this is where we try to keep things organized. Like I mentioned before, we have all the references selected right now, so we're seeing all 190 that we have in this particular library. Some are unfiled, so we have one that just hasn't been organized yet into any particular place. And we have a few in the trash can, which we can easily restore if we need to. We made a mistake, or just get rid of them completely. Recently added is pretty self-explanatory. Things are any references that you have recently added can appear here, and you can customize this by right-clicking or alternative clicking on it and selecting whatever you works best for you. So you have something in the past week, in the past 2 weeks, in the past month. Right now, it's just the default is just in the past day or so. So groups. Let me just scroll through my notes here, make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, so groups you can have supposedly up to 5,000 groups. Right now we have 3, or we have 3 group sets and a number like 4 or so groups in each of these group sets. So I'm not sure where the distinction is, and you can have 5,000 total groups and group sets or 5,000 groups, but you can have a lot. What's usually advised is to have one EndNote library for everything. So all your studies, all your research are in one library, and that really makes the workflow and makes your life kind of easier in terms of utilizing a lot of the more advanced features of EndNote because of how things kind of overlap. And when you're actually searching the references, you can search just that one library, because not sure if they've implemented a way to search multiple libraries at a time. An example of this where you might not want to have one library, like right here, we're in sample library, is if maybe you're on a research team and your team is sharing a library. That obviously probably needs to be its own, whereas your own personal library, it's best to kind of keep things all in one. So right now we have 3 different groups. We have one about avians, about birds, and one about bats, and just kind of a catch-all for different types of groups that we have here in the sample library. But you can make whatever you want. There's really no restriction beyond that maybe 5,000 limit that I said before. So I'm going to click on the My Groups heading here, and I can just create a group. You can also go up to the Groups button in the toolbar here to create a new group. Just give it a name. I want to stick with new group, that's fine. You can, of course, create other types of groups or the group set. So that's where you have the little drop-down arrow, and we can, of course, just drag or drop groups that we make into different group sets. So let's see, a couple of the other options. Your generic group will have the little inbox icon to designate it as just a simple group, basically. There are 2 other types of groups you can create. So you saw that you can create a smart group, or you can create a combination group yeah, I guess they changed the name. It's no longer called from groups. So the smart groups are signified by this little icon that has the inbox tray, but a little magnifying glass in them. And smart groups are created by EndNote, or you create them, but EndNote automatically populates them based on the search that you create when you actually create the smart group. So I can right click on it and say edit the group. And so right now it's set to, obviously we have to have a name, but it's looking for anything that has the word sonar in any field. It will populate that group with those references. So let's see, let's make a new one, maybe just as an example. New smart group. So it's very similar to how you may search in an academic database. We'll just give this a new name. I don't know. Bird diseases, maybe bird disease. And let's see if any of these example references contain just the word disease in them. And this should populate that smart group. So sure enough, we have 4 different references that fit that. Somewhere in these references, in the abstract and the title, the word disease appears. So that's why they're here. The combination groups, I guess from groups, those are where EndNote auto-populates by comparing 2 or more groups to see how they differ or overlap. For the sake of time, it's probably best that I don't get too much into these different groups, but just play with them. You'll get the hang of it in time. One of the newer features of EndNote 21 are tags. You can have, I believe, up to 7 different colors, but you can have as many tags as you want. So we already have a tag that's yellow here with parrots, but we can definitely create another one that's yellow and call it, we can just, say if we want to tag any of our references that have the word disease or that are about bird diseases or bat diseases, we create a new tag. And in the references, you probably already saw a lot of these already have tags associated with them, and they can have multiple tags as well. So for example, this particular reference has both the Scroll down. So it has both the corvids and parrots tags. Just another way to stay organized. Um, it's one of the newer features. I guess in the past, you probably could have just gotten away with in the actual reference itself, just making a custom field and that basically acts as a tag of sorts. But this is nice and that has some colors, just a visual distinction of things. So that was around 4 panels. We talked about this panel, 1, 2, 3. So the last panel, if we want to call it that, is the search panel up here at the top. So we can start searching all of our references. We can do an advanced search, of course. It's very similar to what we saw with the smart groups. So if we were just searching for certain authors, we're searching for certain titles, any of the metadata, as it's called, that may make up a reference, you'll be able to search and hopefully to see what you have. Because as you start going through things, as you start downloading articles and just saving a bunch of citations, your library will grow pretty exponentially. So this built-in search feature can definitely be of use. And lastly, while I'm still up here talking about this panel, we do have individual tabs, so you don't have to just constantly be looking at one thing. So right now we're obviously still looking at the all references. But if I go up here and just click for a new tab, I can go and select one of the groups perhaps, and that's what that tab, I can designate that tab just for that one group. So something just keep in mind, it might come in handy just kind of just visually keeping track of where you are and what you're looking at, as opposed to just constantly jumping back over here on the left-hand side. The more groups you have, the more things you have to scroll through, the more things you have to keep track of, whereas each tab can be its own thing if you want it to be. So let's add a reference. That's obviously a big part of how you go about using EndNote. There's a number of different ways, just like with a lot of the features, a number of different ways to go about executing that. We can click the add a new reference little button here on the toolbar. There is that option up in the menu. We have references tab and the new reference. And that will open up a new page where we have a lot of different fields that we can start populating right away. So I think you need to fill in at least some of these. Maybe that was for an older version of EndNote, but let's see. So yeah, we'll leave that as journal article. That's fine. Smith, John. You need to insert one author per line. And the fact that it's font red is not a bad thing. That's not an error message. That is just indicating that this is the first time that term is being used in the library. So it's not just a name thing. You might see that elsewhere as well. It's just EndNote visually signifying to us that it's the first time it's being used. Whereas before we did have, I think it gave us, let's see, John. Trying to see if there's an autocomplete name it might help with. What's a name? What's a name we have? Moss. Oh, it's not going to do the autocomplete. Well, if it was working, you would be able to nicely just be able to maybe type a few letters and hopefully be able to select a name to help with the workflow speed just a bit. So we'll have a year, 23, and maybe a title of an article, birds, or cool. And sure enough, that should be all we need. And it's saved. So right now we have recently added the garbage reference I just added. It's currently unfiled, just like that other one that was defaults into the sample library. And all you have to do in as far as just organizing and staying on top of things is just you can just click any of the references and drag them around, drop them into different groups that you want. We'll put that in there. And I don't think this has anything to do with birds or bats. Maybe bats. Or maybe I'll put it in references to update. So just another place, another junk drawer of sorts. Just trying to stay organized. All right, so we manually added a reference. That's great, I guess. Usually that's probably not how you're going to go about doing things with EndNote, but for the sake of just the most basic ways of going about doing things, I figured I'd mention that. You're probably going to be searching in an academic database, coming across articles, coming across citations, and that's where you're going to be doing something that they refer to as direct export. You'll be direct exporting the citation itself to EndNote to utilize. So I'm here at the library's website. It's a great place to start for your research. A lot of the academic databases, a lot of the resources you have available to you as a student flow through libraries, and academic libraries is not something that's just unique to NSU. Right here on the middle of the page, we have a lot of the research. Definitely check out maybe the other workshops that we did to go through how to go about finding stuff easily. But I know the name of, well, we'll do subjects. So I'll go to see all the subjects of the databases. And since it's the computer science information workshop, I'll go into IEEE here. Need to sign in. And we're gonna just find an article to actually include into our EndNote. So just basic search. I'll do machine learning just as an example. Okay, great. So some of these we don't have access to, at least through this database, little red lock icon here. Some of them we do have ready access to. So I can click into the title. I could go ahead and download the PDF, but I'm going to click the citation generator. Not all databases have this, but it is a very common feature. So if I click cite this, we can of course copy the plain text to our clipboard if it has it. Ideally, you probably, if you're using EndNote, it's point of this workshop, you're going to be looking for RIS. And this is going to be downloading a file that will then be importing into EndNote. One of the options, at least here in IEEE, is to include the abstract. It's not set to default. So right now, the abstract field isn't present. But if we click the checkbox, then we get the abstract. So we'll click download, save it to the computer, save it to my downloads folder. Perfect. So I can go back to EndNote, go to File, Import, File, and then we're going to be importing an RIS file. So that's that. If we were doing something else, obviously we'd select that in the drop-down. We can say what to do if there's a duplicate of it already in our library. I'm just going to leave that as just import, even if there is a duplicate. And let's go find it. So it was in downloads. There it is. So this is, I guess I might have turned this off first, but this is a feature with EndNote in that it's allowing us to log in with our institutional credentials to actually go get the PDF for us. So right now, down here on the left-hand side, you can see the find full text section of the left side panel, and it was searching for the PDF and it found it. So it already attached it to the article for us because I signed in, because I have that feature enabled in EndNote. And that's definitely something that's available as instructions go on the library guide that I showed off before. In fact, let me go back to that just to demonstrate. So where did they put it? Import filters? No. Full text searches. Aha, okay. So this is where you'd go. So you can have that as an option should you want it. We could have, of course, downloaded the PDF itself and then imported that into EndNote. There's the file import option, or in the actual summary, we can go in and attach a file. There's lots of different ways to go about doing things. Just depends on how you like to do it and what options are available to you. So this will walk you through setting it up how I have it set up. So you can go to, what is it, edit preferences, and you'll be putting in your institutional information in the find full text preferences option. You need to specifically be this open URL path and just they authenticate with URL. And I have it checked off here to automatically invoke the full text finder on newly imported references. So that's what kicked in when I was viewing the once I downloaded that actual RIS file. So that's what that screen was all about. So save some time, perhaps. It just depends on the nature of where you are and what you're trying to download. So since I'm here still viewing this particular reference that we just imported, it's still unfiled, recently added, that's fine. I'm not going to bother organizing it, just an example. But we have a built-in PDF viewer here within EndNote. And like I was saying before, you can attach a PDF yourself. You can attach actually multiple files. It doesn't have to be a PDF. It can be anything, basically. It can be a photo. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can be a video. You can attach a lot, and that should carry with you when you export the library itself. So it really is building upon, like I said, the idea of this being not just a reference manager, but also kind of a library of all your research materials. So say we were back in the birds and we had a bird disease, we had the PDF, or we had maybe a photo of a bird that had a specific disease to it. We could attach it here, or a data set file. So just different options. I think it's 45. I think that's the limit. You can attach 45 files per reference entry. And you can see that designated here on the left-hand side. You have a column in the reference list panel with a little paperclip. And if it has a little paperclip icon, that demonstrates that there are the files attached. And for the PDFs, like I was saying before, EndNote does have a built-in PDF viewer. That's nice. The more, I guess, you don't have to move away from your EndNote library, I guess the better. Although you might want to expand this just to get a better view of things, just made it more readable. It does also feature the ability to start annotating, so you can highlight different things. And if I was familiar enough with this PDF viewer, I guess how to go about doing that. But you do have the option to highlight. You can even add little sticky notes to different sections to make comments. And that will be in the, sure, save. So that'll be in the PDF viewer itself for next time when you come to actually go about reading it. Things will be highlighted, your notes will be there. Maybe not the best way to go about annotating PDFs, but it's a nice feature for those who may, make use of it for certain things. Something you might have noticed back on this page here on IEEE when we were looking at this particular article, this popped up over here in the corner. I have something called EndNote Click installed. It's just one other tool out there that they provide that you can utilize. You can sign in once you install the add-on on your browser. So right now I'm in Firefox, but it has an equivalent probably for Chrome on the Chrome Web Store. Maybe some other browsers have it as well. When you install this and walk through the steps, and this is EndNote's page itself, kind of I'll demonstrate how things work and just getting it started. Certain databases, certain academic repositories can make use of it just depending on how it integrates for grabbing the citation, grabbing the PDF, just an all-in-one sort of solution. So I'm going to go to an open access database called archive.org. It has computer science and engineering open access articles. So we'll just do example search, stick with machine learning. That's fine. And go ahead and click into the article. So just like from before, just like in IEEE, the EndNote Click kicks in and it says, oh, you don't have it in your EndNote Click locker. Weirdly enough, it's saying that the open access version isn't available. But let's see what it can do. Let's see if it can go ahead and grab this for us and sort of save us some time, perhaps. So it seems like it found the PDF. And from here, since I'm already signed in and things are synced with my account, I can just view the PDF here, but I can also download the PDF and, more importantly, push it to the EndNote web or export it to the actual EndNote application that I have already open. So right now it's saving it to my EndNote locker. So we'd have different options to actually take this right away and add it to our EndNote library. In fact, I have right now my EndNote library, my EndNote web open. It doesn't look great because this is the older version. For some reason, it's still thinking I only have the EndNote 20 license. But if you have EndNote 21, it does look a lot better. And in fact, I think from the EndNote website, it had a screenshot of what it should be looking like. Not sure why my account is where things are going wrong with my account, but it should look very similar to how the actual application looks in terms of, just where things are, not this. So lots of different options, lots of different ways to go about kind of doing the same thing. This depends, what workflow you find that works best for you and what you're searching. Some databases, like I said, EndNote Click might kick in and be helpful. Others, it might not be helpful at all. Okay, so I'll mention one more way to go about maybe getting a bunch of articles. So say you're someone who already had EndNote installed, or you managed to get a bunch of citations. but you didn't have the associated articles, and you think that'd be something you would like. So that's where full text, find full text comes in. We demonstrated that before because we already had this application signed in with our institution, with NSU. But let's say I wanted to, just for example, I'll select so many different articles here, and I can go to, where do I need to go? Ugh, can never keep things straight for all these menus. Okay, references, right, references. Find full text. So we have the references selected, references, find full text, and sure. So right now it's going to go and start searching and seeing what it can find. There's around 3 options that things should fall into. Either it finds the PDF like before, it finds a URL, which I'll demonstrate in just a moment. How many did I select? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. It's still searching one of them. Okay, so it found the PDF for 1. It found the URL for 4, and it didn't find one of these. In fact, I already selected one that had the PDF, so that's probably the one that it found. So I'm going to go to the found URL and what that means. It didn't go grab the article for us, but it did find the URL that we could possibly go to actually find the article itself. Why it wasn't able to grab the article, who's to say? But like, this is just another quick way, perhaps, to go and just actually start building your library and finding all the research that you may have already have citations for. Yeah, there's a lot that I'm skipping over in terms of more advanced features, but thankfully a lot of that is on the EndNote side of things in terms of their training. You can get to a lot of that. They have a built-in help guide that's built in when you install the program, and you can of course get to the support page through the help guide as well. It kind of takes you to their support page, like I was saying, just some basic tutorials. And what was the other thing that was here? Oh, they also have a community if you want to, I don't know, if you feel like it might be best to join their forums, obviously, although this page didn't take us to where we were supposed to. You can make postings and just troubleshoot things that way. Okay. What next? Last thing I'm going to talk about probably is how EndNote integrates into word processing application, word processing software. So like Microsoft Word, have that installed on my computer here. If you're on a Mac, you might have Pages, I believe it's called. Older versions of EndNote even integrated with LibreOffice and OpenOffice, different free and open source Office application suites. I think EndNote 21 still supports those. I haven't got it to work yet, but whatever. Uh, so I'll leave that pretty much, I guess, for the rest of this workshop, just going over how that works. But let's say real quick that you want to, everything saves kind of on its own usually in EndNote. But let's say you want to make backups or you want to send your library to somebody. So for that, you would go to File and Export. And from here, you would, oh no, I think I did that wrong. Oh, right. Compressed library. That's what I was looking for. Exporting a citation. We're going to compress the entire library, and that's going to take that data file and that .enl file and put it into one compressed file that then it makes it easier to share. And that should include all the attached files that you have. So if you have a lot, that might make the compressed library file a little too big to like include on an email attachment. But it's a nice way to just quickly back things up. So it's file, compressed library. Well, let's get started with actually utilizing the cite while you write feature of EndNote, and that's probably a second biggest thing you would want to use the software for. So keeping organized and keeping track and importing and doing all that here is great, but your research paper is what really this is all about. So thankfully, like I said, they do have it incorporated with a lot of different document software. So right now I have Microsoft 365. You have access to that as well as a student. That doesn't carry over once you graduate, unfortunately, I guess. But when you have it installed, or whatever version of Word you might have, or document software, you probably have a tab for EndNote once EndNote gets installed on your computer. So let's say we wanted to put an in-text citation. Let's just have a sentence here. Birds are cool. And and we go up here to insert citation. We do have different options. Oh, that's never fun. We do have different options for the drop down for what exactly we're inserting, but we're just going to say like we want to insert a citation if that actually worked. Okay. Well, that's disappointing. Maybe I'm not going to be searching. Maybe I'm not going to be inserting citations for this Word document. Hmm. Great. It's ironic in that I just mentioned all the community support and forums to post troubleshooting and whatnot. You do have access with a license that does come with the technical support. So if you feel the need to, you might be able to reach out to them, which, well, I might have to as well. This is probably something to do with the fact that I'm playing around with the shared library, although it was working. I was kind of demoing this before. Um, yeah, that's not going to make any difference. Let's close out and see if I can get this working. I'm still in my EndNote library. I'll log out of that. Let's close out all of that. Let's close out of this and we'll give it a second, maybe next. See if this work again. Okay. Yeah, this is something we didn't have before. Strange in that you normally you can insert a citation from any library on the fly, but it's asking me to select the library itself, which, okay, that's fine. We can do it. It's not normally how things operate. Uh, okay, so to open that up, great. Okay, here we are. Now we have it working. So let's say we wanted to, we had that sentence, whatever it was, obviously not this sentence for a research paper, but just as an example, and we wanted to include an in-text citation for this part of our research paper, for this sentence, for this paragraph. You could find the reference just by typing in a keyword, whatever you think might might be included with the citation. So bird, obviously, we get a lot of bird stuff, maybe an author's name. The more specific you can be, probably the more helpful to just actually find the reference you're looking for. And when you're selecting the actual reference, it does tell you what library you're getting it from. That's why I guess I'm not sure I understand why it was being thrown off in the past, just a moment ago with asking us to select a library, because it can come from many different libraries and does tell us how many we have that may have contained that word. So we'll just say, okay, where we wanted to cite this one, we get a little breakdown here if we wanted to make sure that's the one we wanted. And we can just say insert. Give it a moment. Okay, lovely. So right now it's set to default to the APA 7th edition. So that's why this is the format. If we had it selected to an annotated, say we wanted to build an annotated bibliography at the end of our research paper, that's definitely an option. It's not as common, but changing the citation style itself is pretty straightforward, pretty self-explanatory. And you can definitely get more styles. I think I've demoed that already on the EndNote side of things. If you need to edit anything, so say something was wrong, you inserted something that wasn't correct for some reason. So let's say we'll do another sentence. And this time I'm going to go to EndNote itself and select a bunch of different, perhaps, references to do. You can do more than one, and I can select them just by holding out the control key and selecting this multiple different references. And I can go up here and select the little quotation mark button, and that should insert all of them here in the right here as if it was an in-text citation, and it included them in alphabetical order on our APA reference section here, even in keeping in mind that we already had something. So Clayton here does appear before Cornero. This is how the APA structures things. But if we messed up, we selected something we shouldn't have, you can't really go in, at least it's not advised to go in and just start deleting things, because how this is structured, it's going to auto correct basically. So one thing you have to do is select the reference, and then go up to edit and manage the citations. And from here, you should be able to go in and say like, oh, no, I didn't mean to include that author, remove that. Okay. So then it automatically, dynamically updates the reference list as well. What's happening is, let's see if I can, whatever the keystroke was. No, that's not what I wanted. What is the keystroke? So these are what Word calls field codes. Normally they don't look like that, but I guess maybe that's just because of the citation style we're using. We go to Vancouver. Let's see. It's mostly like HTML if you're familiar with that syntax language. So that's why when you try to edit things, they don't edit normally. You have to edit via the edit and manage citation section in the toolbar. And I guess that's gonna do it for time probably. There's a lot more to talk about. Hopefully this gives a decent enough overview of what to expect and how to go about maybe probably best utilizing EndNote. There's a lot of different ways, a lot of different scenarios to really go about making the most of it, depending on how you're approaching your research assignments. Some people may make a group or a group set per book, and each chapter gets its own group. That might be a way to approach utilizing it if you're writing your own paper. Just staying organized. It doesn't have to be structured by like a certain subject or certain category. And like I said before, this workshop will be available on the CCE's YouTube page. I'll also try to include a link on the NSU work side of things whenever if I can get the other workshop uploaded as well. And let's take one last look at the notes, see if I missed anything. Uh, no, that's pretty much it. Let us know though if you're coming into trouble with anything. You can obviously, like I said, go to the EndNote support, look at their training videos and all their training guides, but you can also get in contact with us on our library. We have a lot of different places we put just ask a librarian for help. You can make an appointment with us. That might be the preferred way, especially if you have EndNote troubles, EndNote issues. Let us know. We'll do a 30-minute session over Zoom, very similar to this workshop, and try to see what we can do to help. And that's it. Thanks so much for coming.